Thank you very much. Well, it's certainly very important for IUCN if all the countries of the world will be productive and good players on the international scene. So we're waiting for that time also. That's very good. Thank you for that. So I'll just tell you a very little bit. Thank you for having me. Feel a little bit sorry for me because this forum really looks amazing. And one day when I'm no longer Director General, I'm just going to come as a regular participant and enjoy it. And I get to see little tiny bits and pieces. In fact, I'm going to have to rush off pretty soon because I'm doing something about water in the water pavilion and celebrating a new program that we're about to launch, our second phase. But we've all talked about the role of water in security. I'll just tell you very quickly, some of you may have seen on my CV, and some people who've known me for a long time were surprised that I took on a job before I came to IUCN which seemed to be away from my normal career path, which was a fairly steady one, and that was to become the rector of the University for Peace in a country which has no army, which is in Costa Rica. Although it's not a Costa Rican university, it was set up by a UN resolution. And the reason I did that is because I was absolutely convinced that there is this link between environment and security, but I also realized people used to talk about me as someone who had a huge network, and I really did in the science and the environment community, but I didn't know anybody in the peace and security community. In fact, I didn't even know what your organization, I just asked what is it?
CNA.
CNA, I didn't know that acronym, but those who know me know that I don't like acronyms. But basically, although IUCN has very many of them, but basically, I really wanted to understand those links. And so I went as a rector of this university, but actually I was really secretly a student. And I saw the links very clearly, and in fact, I managed to convince the council of the university to set up a master's degree in environmental security. Mm-hmm. So there are lots of students who are going to come and work with all of us on these issues. And so I think I left that job. I'm still on the council of the university, but I left that job a lot wiser. And that's why I wanted to make myself available for a tiny bit of time to be with you today, because I think what you're doing is so important. And I really do see a role for IUCN in this. For one thing, and I think that was one of the questions that you wanted me to say, to talk about, is why should IUCN be involved? Well, for one thing, we're really involved through our membership and our structure in building bridges between different communities, and this particular event, hosted by 2 of our 6 commissions, demonstrates that, and the skills of the 2 commissions are really needed for this particular issue. I think you can include others as well, and I'm sure we'll need a bigger room the next time, but I think that's very, very good. I started out, as you heard from yesterday, I started out my career with IUCN attached to one of these commissions, and that's the Commission on Education and Communication. But I think CEISP has a very important role to play. Now, what can IUCN do in this area of peace and security and environmental security? For one thing, because we have so many experts and good people who work with us through our members on the ground all over the world, many more than 7,500 who are here. That's already a sign, though. They could be a part of this machinery to provide early warning about issues that are going to happen. That they first of all have the skills to observe, to monitor, to research, and to report. And that's where I think the Education Commission can help us perhaps train everyone, every single citizen of this planet should be able to look at the environment and look at to see what's happening in terms of climate change, biodiversity loss, and I won't go through all those, but I think it's very important to really mobilize the network of IUCN members to be the eyes and ears of the planet, and not only to see and to research and to publish, but also move into action. The last what is it? Banner, thank you. I've been speaking so many languages, I don't speak anything anymore. The last banner that came down, action, and that really was a real demonstration, by the way. So somebody was encouraged for action. So I think that's what we should do, and to report again, not just be satisfied with gathering the knowledge, but actually reporting on it, and in order for governments to be able to, and everybody, the citizens of the world, to be able to react. And that's, of course, our own membership. which has built these bridges already over 60 years, this rather unusual bridges between the non-governmental sector and governmental sector, and of course all the experts and scientists and legal experts who are in our commission. These people have already the contacts in their countries to be able to go from having monitored on the ground environmental security issues, then they can go from the expert on the ground to the NGO, to the government for a quick action. Otherwise, you know how long it takes to get news into the hands of people who can actually make a difference. So having this issue high on the agenda of all of the people in the IUCN world, that's already a good start. And I think us working more with the military, I think you'll have some stories from the field. We are starting to work with the militaries in a number of countries. I think that's very important. And finally, you asked me, I think one of the questions was, what can we do at the multilateral level? Well, the fact that, as I said last night, the fact that IUCN has this observer status in the United Nations, remember that although in some language, observer is a quiet person who sits in the back and is not heard, actually the observer status at the United Nations is very difficult to obtain. We got it thanks to our legal experts, and that means that we have the right to speak on behalf of all our members, in fact on behalf of nature, which doesn't have a voice, in the UN after the heads of state, heads of government speak. So, and we always have the same seat. All our members, and many of them have participated with us, you have the right to come with us and sit behind the IUCN sign there. And so we have this access to the multilateral system, and I presume that's what you wanted me to explain when you put this as a question. And we can bring the messages about environmental security to the UN system. The other thing is, as I said when I began, is that we're in the business of building bridges, and while governmental delegations to the different parts of the UN system are normally fragmented and quite often, unfortunately, don't speak to each other, the IUCN has one delegation. We go on your behalf. It's not always the same person, but it's always IUCN, and we exchange information. We go on your behalf to the UN system, to the UN in New York, to the UN system in Geneva, to all of the specialized agencies, and to all of those conventions. In an ideal world, I think our governments should have just made one big convention, or at least put the conventions next to each other so that the communication, the building bridges would happen easier. But we do go to all of them, and we can take the same message. We don't have a problem of fragmentation, or not that kind of problem anyway, so that again, coming from the ground, the monitoring, the observing, the reporting can go up into not only the government members of IUCN from the ground, but also to the UN system and the multilateral system through us. And we feel very strongly that that's what IUCN has to do, get those messages to the right places so that we lead to that last banner, action. And now I'm going to talk about water in another place, but thank you for having me. Forgive me for this quick appearance, but I think what you're doing is really, really important, and I hope I can one day come back for a whole session. But you'll tell me everything that happened. You have to go to another one. Oh,
thank you very much.